All right. Good afternoon to all of you who have joined today's United Policyholders meeting of our WRAP group, the Wildfire Risk Reduction and Asset Protection Working Group. This is part of an initiative that that has the same name, our WRAP initiative, and that we started shortly after the tree mortality crisis was came to light in 2016, and we started to see climate change and drought conditions changing the risk picture here in California fairly dramatically. And then we started to see insurance companies reacting to the revelations from scientists and observations about um, the impact that climate change is having on our landscape and on all of us. And as we started to see insurance companies react to the news that there were over 120 million dead trees along the spine of the Sierra Nevada mountain range, and we started to see people getting dropped in areas that um, historically, if they would have been able to find insurance through a different company once they got non-renewed. We started to see that not working anymore. We started to see um, more and more insurers kind of following suit and less competition. And that led to us starting this working group, our initiative, and broadening our focus. United Policyholders has always been focused on informing and empowering insurance consumers, helping people be resilient to adversity through our Roadmap to Preparedness program, all the education we do around the state and in the media to help people make good decisions about protecting their assets and being in the best possible position to minimize damage from a severe weather event, and then have the insurance in place to be able to bounce back from that event. And we had always been bringing, since we started in 1991, we had been bringing our Roadmap to Recovery program to wildfire impacted areas to help people navigate the challenging recovery process after wildfires through a combination of educational programming, advocacy work, and the whole menu of services that we provide, both virtually online and also in communities and with our partners out there in the ecosystem. So when we started to expand into mitigation and the brass tacks of what can you do to protect your home and your community in this era where it's not really quite the same as it had been. We're all now seeing it. A wildfire, the worst, most damaging wildfire we've seen in California in January is just not something that anybody really was thinking about. We all thought wildfire season was over, etc. But the whole genesis of this working group and our initiative is because we recognize, that um, that our changing climate and the impact of droughts and wind patterns and moisture is impacting us and our homes and our businesses and our communities all across the country. We at United Policyholders, we rolled up our sleeves and said, okay, let's see what we can do here. And so we really, with a lot of you that are on this call today, have come a long way since we started this work. We've got standards in place for what constitutes effective wildfire risk reduction. We've got incredible, fire experts in our group here. We've got some of the leading scientists that have been studying wildfires and all the related phenomena for decades. We have some incredible leaders in this group from all over the state that have rolled up their sleeves with us and said, we're not powerless here. It's scary, it's daunting, It's a whole nother work stream that we didn't really need because we had a lot of other work already, but now we have a whole new set of challenges that we are tackling, but we're tackling them together. So I just want to say both a thank you to my team, Emily Rogan, Annie Barber, Joel Loucher, Ben Laterno, my son Jordy, Valerie Brown, our newer team members, Lisa Hughes and Amy Ludwig out of Colorado. Thank all of you, but also every single one of you who took the time today to join this call. Obviously, we have two guest speakers that everyone wants to hear from. We will be hearing from Megan Fitzgerald-McGowan, who's a program manager with the Firewise USA program under NHPA. And then we will have Commissioner Lara's number two, Chief Deputy Commissioner Michael Martinez, in the second half of the hour, giving us some updates and some important information. So before we get to those speakers, I just want to give you a little bit more of an update on things that have happened since our last meeting. Normally we would have started our first wrap meeting of January saying Happy New Year, but it feels really hard to say that now that so many of our friends and relatives and colleagues, have suffered devastating losses and the impact on them and the impact on the insurance industry and the system and on all of us feels pretty serious. I still want to say Happy New Year. Obviously, our work is so important. Even though this is a very in sort of a relatively informal endeavor. We are not a government agency. United Policyholders is a 501(c)(3) nonprofit. We have we have a small team. We have a large volunteer network. And I think one of the ways that we've been making progress through this working group is because we have a can-do attitude and we try to bring as much positivity as we can to tackling these serious challenges. So for all of those who are activists in your community, on fire safe councils, on COPE, volunteering your time, trying to help your neighbors see the importance of vegetation management and home hardening and working with your fire agencies and doing your best, as I hope everyone is doing, to not point blame and not point fingers and not try to embarrass or attack others and just kind of say, well, we're all in this together. I don't think we can blame any one person for climate change. We're all driving and flying and doing the things, that are contributing. Obviously, there's a lot of people that are out there saying, well, why are insurance companies continuing to insure these industries that are contributing at the same time they're saying that, climate change is becoming unsustainable for them to be able to do business the way they've always been doing it. We just have to keep putting one foot in front of the other. So today we are here to focus on in continuing to do the work that we're doing to prevent structures, dwellings, businesses from being damaged and destroyed in wildfires, to learn from the experts that have shared so much research with us and best practices, to learn from the firefighters, local, state, CAL FIRE, our friends with the federal agencies, and try to just keep on progressing to reduce risk where we can, how we can, and bringing insurance companies into the tent with us, with our optimism, with the programming that we have all been building out all over the state, with the support from the Governor's Office of Emergency Services and the LISTOS program that is funding our ability to be here with all of you and host our WRAP Resource Center. So with all of that said, there's a couple of quick more hits I want to share. You'll hear more from Michael Martinez, but obviously by the end of last year, the pieces of the Commissioner's Sustainable Insurance Strategy were all in place. We were starting to see some really great green shoots of hope Our working group member, Jen Goodlin, reported back to us about a grant she got through one of these meetings to get people gravel so they could have some that clear space around their homes in Paradise that is working so incredibly hard to battle back from their tragic fires. And then the good news we got from CSAA, who also presented on one of our meetings that they would be accepting the IBHS Wildfire Prepared Home certification as good grounds to renew an existing customer instead of the higher level base plus, which is very, very challenging. So we don't sugarcoat. We know it's expensive and it's hard to do the mitigations. And we all, I mean, I love trees as much as anybody, and it's very, very hard to do what we know we have to do. But as we've seen from the tragedy in LA, we just gotta keep at it, and that's all we can do. So the good news is that when I checked in with Mercury before today, and I checked in with CSAA, and sounds like they're on track. No insurer has reported an intention to leave the state as a result of the fires. We don't expect any insurance companies to be going belly up or going bankrupt and throwing their customers into the Guarantee Association. So we'll take that in the good news column. For folks who are with the FAIR plan, we know that there are a lot of challenges with the FAIR plan, and we are expecting that they are going to have to do an assessment on their members, and then their members are probably going to turn around and try to recoup a portion of what they get assessed in the form of a temporary surcharge for their policyholders. But the message I want to give to you today is that insurers got the tools that they said they needed in California to be able to stay here and do business. The insurers that I have checked in with seem to be staying on track with that positive outlook. And so with that, I want to get to hearing from Megan on the Firewise program, the coordination that they are now doing with the Institute for Home and Business Safety, IBHS, um, to not just have the wildfire prepared home standard and then the Firewise community standard be a benchmark for better prepared communities, better bets for insurance companies, but also the work that they do with Verisk and the challenges that they are working their way through to have wildfire prepared communities, and also to keep the maps updated as more and more communities want to get designated as Firewise. So Megan, thank you so much for being with us today. Are you ready to roll?
I am. Can you hear me?
We can. And I
Okay.
just realized I went a little over and I apologize, Emily.
Okay. Um, if at some point my audio changes, let me know. The laptop's been a struggle lately, but it's been good today so far. So if you can hear me, I will share and get rolling. And then yeah. Okay, are we seeing a screen?
We are.
Perfect. Thank you. All right, we'll just bump along. So hi, Megan Fitzgerald-McGowan. This is my second time speaking with this group. So I'm not going to go over all of the same information because hopefully you were able to listen in on that one, or we can get you caught up with information from our website, or I know they record these presentations. But just a quick reminder, the National Fire Protection Association, or NFPA, is a global self-funded nonprofit. We've been around quite some time, since 1896. All of the work we do is centered around fire and life safety. So we're really trying to tackle those different things through public education, outreach, training, codes, certifications, all those different things to eliminate death and injury from electrical fires, house fires, wildfires, all those different things. Our wildfire division is small. It's a small part of NFPA. I think we have about 5 people. But these are the different things that we play in. We're engaged in policy. We have a new policy specialist, public education and community engagement. That's more of where I work. We have codes and standards around training, building, those different things. And then we have training and certification programs for professionals, all the way down to if you are an inspired, just resident who wants to do more. Um, and with all of this, the space we are addressing in wildfire, because it's a big space, is really the built environment. So we are here to talk about the built environment and how can we work towards the end of loss from those conflagrations. So Firewise USA, quick reminder, is a recognition program that provides a framework to help residents get organized, find direction, and take action to increase the ignition resistance of their homes and communities. And I emphasize recognition because we're not certification. We are not, through our program, coming out looking at individual homes and properties saying they are certified, mitigated to a certain level. We're not coming at communities and really, scoring them or ranking them, any of those things. This is a self-assessed, self-driven recognition program. Within that framework, we do have steps to achieve recognition, and this is where we get into why we've been around so long and why we have the participation that we do, right? It's about community organization. So if it's a neighborhood, neighbors coming together to form a board or a committee, they have to do that risk assessment, determine their size, their boundary, develop a map, and that's an important piece when we talk about the data and how we work with Verisk. They have to have a plan. They have to do things every year, and they have to tell us about it. So that's how you join, and that's also how you stay. So to stay in the program, again, you have to renew each year. There's an application process, very similar to your first year. You might have to update your documents. You might have to meet some different criteria. And the whole idea is wildfire's not stagnant. If you live where wildfires happen, there may be some actions you take that are one and done if they're a big thing, or, as a community, maybe you do this large adjacent shaded fuel break, which can help your community when you pair it with your home hardening and your zone zero work. All those different things have to work together. But a lot of times it's annual work. It might even be throughout the year you're having to clean up leaves and needles because the wind blows, things fall. So it's just that reminder, we don't want communities to get stagnant or stale. And well, we have a barbecue, we hosted a chipper day, and we're good. We're ready for the next fire, when we all know it's not that simple. It's not that easy. So, if there are questions at the end more about how to become recognized, we can dive into it, but I think we've gone over that pretty well before. Just that reminder, it's been around since 2002. It is a partnership between NFPA, the Forest Service, the Department of the Interior, and the National Association of State Foresters. And that is how we connect to CAL FIRE, who is our state liaison in California. So all of these organizations work together to promote, to share information. But at the end of the day, in California, it's the network of partners on the ground who help communities through the process. CAL FIRE reviews and approves applications. Then they come to NFPA for final onboarding. So we keep growing, and this is exciting. It's also kind of overwhelming because we know a lot of what's driving growth are these large, awful fires that we're seeing. But we also appreciate the growth because to me it says people recognize, like, oh man, I live somewhere at risk, and there's things I can do, and I want to be a part of something bigger to help myself and help my neighbors as we look at these wildfires. So we just rolled over 2024. Numbers are still being finalized, but they're looking pretty solid now. So after everything from 2024, we're now at 2,710 communities and good sites. In California, you guys are leading the charge. 474 new communities joined last year, and there is a lot of investment. This is self-reported. I would say this is low. It's probably a lot higher what communities are doing, and that's great. And these are things that as we talk with the government organizations that we work with, we really try to put forward the story of here's what all these communities who have self-selected are choosing to do, to spend their time, to spend their money, to help own their part of the wildfire problem. They're doing great work. Please keep investing in these programs, these grants, these resources that they need to keep doing the work. Please keep investing in our partners who need the staffing to help all these communities keep doing this work. So if you are a participant, I want to thank you for all the great reporting you've done. We use that data to help carry it forward to funders and decision makers. We also use it in our discussions with the insurance industry around we know people are doing good things on the ground. We know good work is being done. The program is, a foundation for action and it's based in science. And I wanted to touch on some of this because I am going to quickly talk about how we work with IBHS, our program and their program, and really how they complement each other. But started with some of that original research by Dr. Jack Cohen, and it's been continued on by IBHS and NIST and others who are really looking at how are these homes igniting. And we know that a large percentage of it is ember penetration coming from the main fire or a part of the fire, those embers traveling in, they take hold, they ignite one home, but then that home in the urban conflagration setting becomes that other source of embers. And embers from a house are a lot bigger than embers from the wildlands. So we are really trying to work on how do we keep that first home, that first group of homes from igniting. It is what we promote is really based on the idea of the home ignition zone, that the home and out to 100 feet really dictate how that home is going to do. And it's broken down into the first 5 feet, which, you'll hear zone 0, you'll hear a non-combustible zone. It's all the same idea. Within 5 feet of the house, you shouldn't have anything that's going to burn. You want to take those plants and move them out. You want to take that bark mulch, replace it with gravel right in that area. There's all kinds of recommendations out there on our website, on IBHS's website. So I'm not going to talk through all of them because I think we know what needs to be done, but we also know it takes money and it takes time. So those are just some examples from a different presentation, but you can kind of get the sense of looking at things. Sometimes a house looks great from one side, but then you see the back side, it's not great. And you see other homes that are at risk. So Firewise is all about overlapping home ignition zones, homes in close proximity. How do we work together? So what about the IBHS wildfire prepared home? We don't see this as a competing thing. It's really about strength in numbers. So Firewise can be that thing, that framework that brings neighbors together to get started. Then we can look at IBHS's wildfire prepared home can be that next step in truly meeting a standard that is more rigorous to really help, your home have that best stand against a wildfire. So we're both trying to work on decreasing loss from conflagration. It's all the same science. There's requirements versus, hey, we're voluntary, you get to prioritize and choose. But we also know that the more homes that meet that higher standard in a Firewise site or within a community, and the more those homes are next to each other, congruent, that bigger footprint on the ground of mitigation, the more we bend down that risk. And in 2025, NFPA and IBHS are going to be working together more to help promote both of these things going forward. So we're really looking at alignment of messaging, some co-branded resources. I am going to be just out there whenever I can talking about first 5 feet and your house. Please make sure they are as ember resistant, fire resistant as possible. And I think that's messaging that's always been there, but sometimes it gets lost amongst competing priorities. And as NFPA looks at Wildfire Community Preparedness Day, which we host the first Saturday in May each year, that's really going to be our, hey everyone, let's get together around the first 5 feet and see what we can do to make a difference. As we work through this year, so, I'm not speaking for IBHS, I don't speak for how they're funded, but I will speak on how we're working together. They are looking at a community-based program. We are talking with them as they work through that. And, there's different things to look at. Is it a new built community? Is it building fresh with the designation in mind versus are we looking at an already built community that needs to do retrofits, needs to do all these different actions? And we're hoping as criteria gets identified to identify some Firewise sites that could maybe be a pilot to who are willing to step up to meet that more rigorous criteria so we can really start to look at what works, what doesn't, and how do we, again, increase mitigation at the home level across community in those measurable ways that we can share the data, insurance companies can see the data to really see that mitigation needle moving. And then insurance. I know this is what everybody probably wants to talk about, not my favorite topic, and I want to do some level setting. I think I already said in the beginning, we are a self-funded nonprofit. We are not sponsored as a whole or funded by the insurance industry. However, we do have specific efforts where we are working together. We work with one insurance company to help sponsor Wildfire Community Preparedness Day and our National Fire Prevention Week efforts. For Firewise USA, we are working through our data licensing program with the industry around the yes/no determination is a home located within a Firewise boundary. And this is in response in California specifically to the Safer from Wildfires regulation, which our program got included in. So we know that participation in Firewise is one of the things that is supposed to be taken into account for an incentive. To meet that demand for address verification, as I said, we're a small team. California is one state that participates. It is the biggest participating state, but this is a national program using federal dollars. So our time is really, we can help one state, but we can't just help one state all the time. But to meet this need for address verification, we're working with data companies such as Verisk. There are others who service the industry. Right now, our capacity allows for a twice-a-year update. We are exploring ways to deliver more frequently to California. Just the growth has been beyond what we could imagine in the last couple of years, and just putting in systems to try to capture those new maps coming in, communities that want to change their boundaries. Each year, we're trying to figure out how do we better capture this? How do we update? And how frequently can we update? So my team and I were talking today, what can we do next? Where we're at right now, we had a fall update. We just went through the whole Firewise renewal process. We rolled over the system at the start of January. So all those communities who didn't renew, who are now inactive, have to get pulled out of the data set. And we're pulling in all those new communities who joined in December. And I didn't break down that slide of numbers for that, but it was over 100 communities who came on board just in December. So that's a big lift. And my colleague Erin is tackling that right now. We did just update the point data map that's on our external website that says it's not meant for address verification, but does show where participating communities are. So that has been updated. It is on our website. We do have that final URL on the bottom talks about, hey, here's how we're operating in California, and we're doing what we can, and we are trying to do better. I know there are some specific concerns around a certain insurance where we have communities that have been in the data set. They are in the data set. The addresses that have been sent to us are in that data set that they have access to through Verisk, and for some reason, a connection is not being made. So we are working through our, partners that we have contracts with to say, hey, we are getting a lot of feedback on this. We need you to address this. And I know it's not perfect. I know there are still concerns. And as residents work through their local partners who send those to me, I feed that right along and keep making the case for, hey, how are we addressing this? How is this being handled? We're still hearing complaints. So I know it's not perfect, and we are trying, and we're trying to do better. So I know we're bumping up to 1:30, and I know there are other speakers. I just wanted to put one thing out there real quick. My boss, Michelle Steinberg, who has been with Firewise since it started, couldn't be on the call today because she's on the ground in California. They are doing some visits within Los Angeles County, but really we're there to keep being that advocate to safety, policy, and action as these areas look to build back better. right? We know we need to get people back in homes. We know those things need to happen, but we also know that fires happen every year and we can't just build back the way that they were. We need to build smarter. We need to build with wildfire in mind. So I just wanted to share that, along with this voluntary program, we're trying to help be an advocate and a speaker for those really important things and how we look at land use, how we look at building, how we look at all of those things. So um, I'll leave it there. We do.
Okay, well, you're not off the hook yet, Megan. Thank you so much.
Yes.
But I don't think our other speaker is with us yet, so I was going to just sort of um, chat with you a little bit if that's okay.
Yeah.
If I ask you anything that's feels it's out of your bailiwick, of course, you can tell me. So, your designation, of course, has been incredibly important in, the Firewise community designation was kind of the first indicia that an insurance company would recognize, right? So, as a sign that, oh, these people are taking wildfire risks seriously in this community. And USAA, and I know you don't speak for them, but, for all the years where we were trying to hold up an insurer as an example of a good of a
Yeah.
a good example, it would be them, right? That they would give this automatic, I think 5% discount, 5 or 10. Anyway, that's what happens when you don't have a day off for 20 days in a row. I can't remember if it was 5 or 10. Anyway, the fact that USAA has been giving a discount to their members for just living in a Firewise community has given us hope from day one. That's still in place, right? To your
It
knowledge?
is.
Yes. Is it, do you
Yeah.
know if it's 5 or 10?
I'd always heard closer to 10. I
Okay. All right. Well,
don't have
hopefully,
hard numbers.
yeah.
But I also know it was off the wildfire portion. So that's one thing to I'm sure we've had these discussions. It's really hard to talk about insurance because every company, it's like proprietary. They can't discuss it in a room. All of them calculate their incentives a little differently and to what it
Yes.
applies to. And I have heard, I've heard different things in California where it's really small, depending on the insurer. I know for the
Yeah.
fair plan, it does make a difference.
Oh, it does. And as a matter of fact, the fact that, some people say, well, we have two sets of standards. We have the IBHS and then we have safer from wildfires. And they're similar. Why do we need two? Well, short answer is, all respect to IBHS. They're doing incredibly important work, but it is a private entity. It's not like, they're not like a government standard setting body where there's minutes of the meetings and you can follow it. It's an insurer funded entity, again, doing incredibly important work. Safer from wildfires was a collaborative approach from different state agencies, and so I think the fact that they both came up with pretty much the same list is great for all of us. The fact that that the safer from wildfires seeks to recognize not just the one program, not just the IBHS program, but also
Mhm.
Firewise and any other, fire safe councils and any other factors in a community that are indicators that this community is working to reduce wildfire risk. So I guess my are there I mean what are you regularly interacting with insurance companies? I mean Verisk, obviously you have a relationship with them.
Mhm.
They are a supplier, they are a vendor to insurance companies. So are you in dialogue with insurance companies like you are with USAA?
Not not as much. So Michelle usually handles more of the insurance side of things.
Okay.
We at least for the purposes of incentives, it is through things like Verisk, Better View, Zesty, those providing to the industry. Now, we have looked at opportunities to have like shared presentations where we're talking about risk reduction. We're not talking about rate incentives. We're talking about the value in mitigation. And Michelle has been the lead on some of those. And through our conversations with groups like APCIA and III, so those um, trade associations with the insurance industry, again, it's insurance want to do business, but they have their things that they have to meet, right? And in our discussions with IBHS and others, and it's good you brought up this example of safer from wildfires, like the regulation versus the program. IBHS's designation can go to any state. Like it is what it is. It's a standard. And I think one of the concerns out there, and one thing that we're trying to also work within is if we had every state making their own, well, these are the things that should be prioritized and be incentivized, that that might end up driving the insurance
Right,
crazy, right? Like how do
right,
you
right,
and
right.
it's difficult with that highly individualized thing. So we're really
Yeah,
trying to put forward the standard of these are the science-based minimum things that truly make that difference.
yeah,
And and I think more companies are they're really trying to look at it, right? They're starting to look at that science. They're trying to look at that data. And we are trying to look at how we're growing our work with Verisk and outside of just California. I know it's pretty focused with this group, this state, but Washington, Oregon, Nevada, Arizona, so many others, they're starting to see these insurance challenges. I spoke a
yeah,
couple weeks ago to a council in Arizona who's trying to get ahead of it before they're just seeing mass drops or, changes, but it's tough. And you spoke earlier, to the work that needs to be done, listening into different things. There's not a silver bullet, right? And
right.
and we
Right.
had even someone on one of those council calls ask, like, so there's not just one thing that people can do and that'll just be it? Like, no. There's
Right.
a whole or there's one system of things, but
Right,
not
right, right. It's a suite. Well, our next speaker is with us and but I want to say, and we actually do, United Policyholders has two staff members based in Colorado. They're both on the call and there's something in Colorado called FACO, the Fire Adapted, Communities and it's a little bit like this group, people kind of, coordinating, but IBHS has not brought their program there yet. So I think your point about there being one kind of set of rules that would lead to insurers giving discounts all across the country and renewal rewards and all that is well taken. The I did want to give another shout out to one of the other insurers that has been with us on these calls and was agreed to speak, and CSAA, who is also giving an automatic discount for just living in a Firewise community. So thank you for that, CSAA. Thank you, Megan, so much for the work you're doing. Hang in there, and we know the challenge of being a very modest sized organization with a very high, fast growing demand for your services. So, stay healthy and keep up the good work.
Thanks, you too. I'm gonna stand and listen and I'll try to answer any lingering Firewise questions in the chat.
Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Um, so I want to welcome our next guest, who is probably busier than he ever could have imagined he would ever be. Chief Deputy Commissioner Michael Martinez, with the California Department of Insurance. Michael has been incredibly generous with his time in staying in very close contact with me and my team at United Policyholders, and the DOI is up to their eyeballs with the marketplace challenges with their job overseeing rates, and then of course responding to the fires that took out homes in last year in Butte and in Ventura, and then what we all know from the headlines is going on in LA, that tragic situation. So, Michael, thank you for making a few minutes to brief us. You guys I know you did your workshops the last 2 weekends down there, one-on-ones, opportunities for people to get their policies reviewed. And now you're going to be doing a town hall. You got the SIS in place. To talk to us. Thank you so much for giving us a bit more meat on the bone.
Oh, absolutely, Amy, and I thank you for inviting me. Thank you for just your absolute leadership and just longstanding consumer protection work that you and your staff have been doing at United Policyholders. You know that Commissioner Lara and I mean, I've known you for over 15 years plus. Personally, and then just anything like we are partners on so much continued years past, years going forward. So just thank you for all the work that you and your staff are doing, especially on being out there in the community, advocating and fighting for consumers. And so just thank you. I had a brief presentation. I'll go through it as quickly as I can, knowing that there are some questions that I'm happy to answer. And I know, well, when Amy, you had outreached to me to talk primarily about the sustainable insurance strategy, which I will always be able to jump at. We then had these devastating wildfires in Southern California, which has preoccupied a lot of everyone's time, rightly so, and attention to ensure that affected consumers and wildfire survivors, that they're able to recover and get the benefits that they deserve, and as expeditiously as possible. And that is the main priority right now, is from the insurance commissioner, Ricardo Valletta, the California Department of Insurance. Like that is our main role, especially right now, is to ensure that insurance companies have the resources to honor and pay claims, and that they being insurance companies are adhering to all the consumer protection laws, which are many good ones. California and really in leading the nation with a lot of the consumer protection laws, and that we will absolutely. And I appreciate, I mean, Amy, you have come to me and said, hey, I'm hearing this out there in the field. We've been able to turn it around, of outreach to individual folks, as well as kicking out notices and bulletins to clarify and make sure that insurance companies and consumers, we've started, or we have been for years, these consumer alerts that are geared towards consumers, because generally our department, we kick out bulletins and notices that are geared towards the insurance companies. It's a bit more legalese speak, a bit more in that, but we want to make the consumer alerts like really approachable and understandable, given, as many of us know, that it could be quite intricate. And I mean, even I have to read many things quite a few times to really get it right. So here's the thing: the commissioner has moved forward, and again, I'm going to go through these, but just wanting to know, I mean, from day one, he has reminded insurers of their statutory obligation. Again, we have all these laws on the books. Here they are. Here are the big ones, and here are other insurer resources to make sure of all the consumer protection laws out there, and abide by it, because we are watching, and we will be ensuring that you are paying out to consumers. The commissioner, when he was a state senator, authored the big non-renewal moratorium law for residential policies within or adjacent to the wildfire perimeter. And so that is well in effect. And we've had several wildfires, Palisades and Eaton, and a handful of others, that we have a very robust wildfire perimeter and adjacent to, where residential policies are not to be non-renewed or canceled for 365 days. So that is well in effect. We've requested insurers to forego any pending non-renewals in the area. And this is something where we cannot mandate it because it's not existing law, but we can certainly aggressively ask insurers that those non-renewal notices that were pending pre-fire, please protect these consumers from being non-renewed. And one of the big ones, State Farm, was one of the big ones, the first to have a lot of sorry, there's so many comments. I keep on seeing the pop-ups. I apologize. So I do want to answer that question.
Don't worry about, just keep going with
trust.
your program for now.
Yeah, the trust is I have an answer for that.
That issue keeps coming up, so great.
Yes, it does. We have an answer for it. Consumers will be protected by that. There should be, anyway. We have the 60-day current grace period law. We are telling insurers, hey, 60 days, don't forget it. And also, if you give more, give more. Requiring health insurers to ensure medically necessary health services, including access to prescription drugs. We have a whole enforcement team, law enforcement, that are actually helping working with the National Guard, working with Cal OES, working with local law enforcement to accompany adjusters so that they could, see eyeball to properties as part of the claims handling process, helping them and also ensuring that safeguarding consumers from fraudsters, because unfortunately, in times like these, we do and have, unfortunately, unscrupulous folks out there. So our enforcement team is out there, and because of the emergency, the commissioner is allowing out-of-state adjusters to help handle claims, but under very strict oversight by departmental licensees to ensure that consumers are protected. Amy had stated that the commissioner has held a couple really good workshops last 2 weekends, Santa Monica College, Pasadena. We have helped hundreds, if not a couple thousand. I mean, literally, we did not close, because we had a lot of walk-ins in addition to appointments. The last 2 weekends, Saturday and Sunday, we did not close the doors until everyone was seen, appointments or walk-ins. So it was like a few nights, it was like 10, 11 p.m. But it was like everyone was served. And that's so important for us in partnership with folks like United Policyholders, that consumers that were able to be there, answer their questions about their claim, walk them through. And we had so many insurance company claims handling representatives right there in the same vicinity as part of our workshop, where checks were able to be cut for many consumers. So right then and there. So that was very impactful. Again, one thing to help folks recover and get back on their feet. We are actively engaged with FEMA's disaster recovery centers. The few three DRCs located there on the slide. And of course, on the right-hand side, a slew of our consumer services hotline, written, calling, I mean, you name it. We fortunately have experience in this. We've done many with catastrophic events for the last several years. We have done this before many times, of having workshops, of having consumer assistance events. And so we know what to do, and we're here for consumers. So sustainable insurance strategy, it's something where, look, like January, just very, very devastating. These are extraordinary times. And with that said, the commissioner and I have met with many insurance companies in the admitted market, and many, like all the big ones, that say, okay, even with January occurring, are you committed to our state? And yes, the answer is a resounding yes. And yes, they have been preparing for events such as these. Certainly with climate change and climate change intensified wildfires and catastrophic events, insurance companies are looking forward, looking ahead, engaging with reinsurance companies, so they have the capital on hand, readily accessible if and when events such as these occur. And so, as part of the sustainable insurance strategy, we started this back in September 2023, and this being getting the sustainable insurance strategy back on, conceptualized, created, and entirely done administratively. When I say administratively, it means looking at our existing statutory authority to do a myriad of, and as you see here in these bullets, looking at ways to streamline our rate application approval process, introducing new risk tools of catastrophic modeling and incorporation of California only net cost of reinsurance and rate. For the first ever for the nation, we are, once an insurance company agrees to, opts into utilizing cat modeling and or reinsurance in their rates as part of the Proposition 103 prior approval process, that when they do, that they are committing themselves to writing more policies in wildfire distressed areas and lifting policyholders out of the FAIR plan back into the admitted market or into the admitted market. And so that is a huge element of this whole strategy, in addition to strengthening and modernizing the FAIR plan, which has been very much top of mind out there in conversations. And so the commissioner, and I serve as essentially his chief of staff, chief deputy, and I just in turn have helped oversee. We have literally each and every branch. We have about 12 branches that we have teams in each branch that are working on the sustainable insurance strategy, varying levels, varying degrees, but the commissioner committed to getting pretty much the entire strategy done through administrative actions and rulemakings, all by December 31st, 2024, and we did it. We did it. We got it moving forward, and we're now moving forward to implement that. And it's well underway as we move forward here. This is a bit more on some specificity on the various elements of the sustainable insurance strategy. Looking at time, okay. So again, talking about the rate application approval process, faster rate approval times. That certainly is something that has come up in the last handful of years, and looking at ways in which to streamline our filing approval process so that justified rates are moved forward as we continue to protect consumers and give consumers choice out there in the marketplace. Again, introducing these tools, cap modeling and reinsurance, modernizing the FAIR plan, because we really want to ensure, because a financially challenged FAIR plan does not benefit anyone or the insurance marketplace, given that under existing law today, the entire admitted insurance market, all the admitted companies, are really the backstop. It's not the state's general fund. It's the insurance companies essentially serve as the reinsurance. And so it's something where we want to ensure that as part of the modernization of the FAIR plan, that it does remain financially solvent and sustainable should and if when we have catastrophic events such as now. We are looking to and have enacting intervenor reform to ensure transparency and accountability for groups that intervene and ensure rate filings, public rulemaking later this year, and again, underscoring creating the first in the nation insurer commitments to write more policies in wildfire distressed areas and lifting and shifting out from the FAIR plan into the admitted market individuals that have been in the FAIR plan. Based on current statistics, the FAIR plan residential wise constitutes about 4% of the state's residential insurance marketplace coverage. It is growing. It has been growing. And just know at this time, our data shows about 4%. But again, it has been growing over the years. The hope, again, is to have it dramatically decrease. I think so. That's So it's
4% of the 4% of the market, but
yes,
80% of the media coverage recently.
yes, yes.
Okay, sorry.
No, absolutely. And so in closing, and then open up for questions, is that just
Yeah,
underscoring?
yes, and of course, since you said you have an answer on the trust question, if you could squeeze that in at the end.
Yeah, well, let's do that now.
Yeah,
I mean,
but no, let's let you finish your
well, okay, yeah, this is the last of just again, really underscoring, because this is something where, part of the pulling teeth, like, hey, we want, what's in it for consumers? How do we ensure that insurance companies are going to write in geographical areas of the state where they have over the years have been leaving several geographical parts of the state, especially again in wildfire distressed areas and in wildland urban interface. And so it really is something where these regulations that have now been that are done, that are now law, create pathways for this commitment for all types of insurers, long-standing, small to mid-size, new entrants. It's really just as part of ensuring that we actually hold these insurance companies accountable in writing more, that it's not just giving them these new tools. It's like, how are they utilizing these new tools as part of rate making where consumers are benefiting? And yes, that answer to that is Cal Poly, yes, the commissioner. And then I'll answer the trust. Let me stop sharing, give you more
Thank you
screen.
so much, Michael. So yeah, were you gonna answer the Hassan question?
I don't know who asked it, but
Yeah, will CDI be involved with
Oh,
developing a public model with Cal Poly Humboldt?
Yes, yes, yes. In fact, actually, it was Commissioner Latta had created that. He approached Cal Poly Humboldt to say, "Hey, and my Department of Insurance, we want to create a public cat model," which Amy is a wonderful part of the working group of the public cat model working group. So thank you, Amy. He was one of the first. I was there physically. We were at Up to Good, and it's something where, yes, so it was something that he had always wanted to do. It would take some time, um, in parallel track with allowing private catastrophe models to be incorporated into rates today, because those are readily used and available today. That concurrently parallel track, also looking at having the nation's first public catastrophe model. And so that is well underway. The commissioner has led that, created the working group. Again, approached Amy, approached Cal Poly Humboldt to chair it. And I believe April-ish, right? April is when,
Yeah.
good, is when the recommendations from the model, from the public cat model will be presented publicly into the commissioner so we can move forward. There's also, we are working with legislative leadership on a budget proposal to give the department additional monies in order to further. So it's not just it stops at April and it's like, all right, then what do we do? It's like we have a plan for the next phase. And so that would be the next phase. We're looking at $3 million just to get it up and running so we can actually get the dedicated staff resources. We have some already today, but just to continue so we don't lose that momentum. So that's absolutely underway as part of the this year's state budget deliberation process.
So just for the benefit of those who may not have any idea what we're talking about, so Florida, which is kind of ahead of us in how ensures reactions to climate change and the explosion of technology has impacted affordability and availability there. One of the things they did was to create a public hurricane model to serve as a benchmark so that when the commercial modelers tell our department to come in and say, Deputy Commissioner, our model says, that we're looking at this, doomsday scenario, and that there be something to kind of balance, knowing that modelers are not going to underestimate risk. If anything, they're going to overestimate it. So we're looking to make sure that we are bringing fair science to the predictions of what might happen, which of course are in turn affecting rates. Michael, I know everybody here is, of course, we all are focused. These are the true believers here in this call, and that it actually makes a difference when a community does all the things that a lot of the people in this group have been doing, floats a bond to finance grants and has events and educates people about safer from wildfires and wildfire prepared home and all those things. Knowing that insurers are going to start to file, they call CIS filings, they're going to start to file new rates. Of course, people are very, very worried about the impact it's going to, have on premiums. And I have some sort of talking points around it, but what are some of the talking points that you can offer people in terms of what they can expect and what the future might hold for what they pay for property insurance?
Yeah. So look, like from in regard to the premiums, obviously under Prop 103, no premium rate can move forward unless prior approved by the department. And we have so many really hardworking rate regulation staff that have been doing this for years. And if a rate moves forward based on whether it's the backwards, looking back the 20 years, or with the SIS, Sustainable Insurance Strategy, SIS, to save a breath, that will have the cat modeling and the reinsurance element that from the department's perspective, if there's an approval with rate, it's justified. I mean, yeah, a lot of the behind the scenes, and I've been part of several negotiations with staff, the experts educating and informing me, we push back if the rate is not justified. The requested rate from the insurance company is not justified. But again, we look at the team looks at all the data, the loss, especially with this month being a particular loss for many insurance companies, that it's from the commissioner's perspective, it's something where we move forward in a sense of if it's justified, it moves forward. And the balance of course also is that we are wanting to, as we peg risk and where places are with the CAP modeling, that there are going to be continued places, geographical areas in the state that are distressed, that are wildfire distressed areas, that are more prone to catastrophic events. And so as we peg more accurately to that risk, yes, it will entail increases in premiums for certain parts of the state. And so it's something where, look, from also part of having more insurance companies writing in geographical areas where they had not before, or maybe they had one, if any, or if it was just only the FAIR plan, and having more insurance companies in a geographical area where they historically have not been, the competition should also bring competition down. And please know that we will always be there as the Department of Insurance with these hardworking staff of ensuring that insurance companies follow through on their commitments to write more in the state and to write in these areas that they said that they would under their filed CIS filing, and then also ensuring that any approved rate does not remain that is excessive, discriminatory, but also not inadequate.
Well, Michael, I'm sure we could go on, and I'm sure people have a lot of questions, and I am so grateful to you for taking a little bit of time out of your busy day. I mean, I think, the not only are we hoping that renewed competition will help us keep rates in check a little bit, but also getting people off of the FAIR plan, which is a high risk plan, should, and getting them out into the standard market again should really help us, help them qualify for more normal rates. So to that end, it's not all bad news on the horizon. And I think, I'm going to ask you, we're not going to be able to answer any other questions about the rate process today, although I know there's going to, well, if you
Yeah.
want to, you can go ahead.
Well, I would just say, like, yes, look, on the rate approval side, because I did see one, or
Yes,
probably others, it just,
she's a modeler, so
as chief deputy, I also am in charge of making the trains run within the department. And the rate regulation branch, it has not added staff for decades. I can absolutely say that. And I pushed with staff of being able to get, in partnership with the legislature and governor, ability to contract with multiple firms to help on PNC filings. So we have that in place. Also to be able to, we've been able to lift, and this is part of the nimbleness that we need to do at the department. I used to work in the governor's office for several years under then Governor Jerry Brown. And one thing that in that perspective, working for a governor, is that, hey, how do we get to the path to yes? And let's think outside the box. So one thing that we did is like, look, we have some vacancies here, so let's lift and shift over and bring them into the rate regulation branch. Let's not wait for the budget process. We don't have the time, because it takes time as part of, for any civil service application and hiring process. There are rules that any state employer needs to abide by. But I was like, let's hire more. Let's put people in the blanket. Let's do what we need to do in order to staff up. So there's many longstanding rate regulation staff that have been there who, I mean, hey, it happens with all the organizations that we've seen, especially with COVID. We had a lot of retirements. I mean, every organization, public, private, nonprofit, we saw. And so we've had an opportunity to promote up with those vacancies. We've gone to college fairs. We've hired over at events, and we have So we promoted up, we've filled vacancies, and we've also had um, creating whole new um, um, uh, positions. We've put in whole new positions because my goal is to nearly double the amount. It historically has been about 100-ish, but if we can double that, in a very thoughtful, justified way, because obviously for those folks on here who are managers and supervisors, right? If it goes from like managing 5 people to 20, we want there's always going to be that balance. But also, the thing here is that we can't operate the department as status quo. We are operating under a crisis, under emergency. And so just know that that is something. And as we move forward, just know that later this year, I've already teed it up. We're going to start showing publicly metrics, because I do feel as part of this, the department itself needs to be accountable to itself and to people. So you will start seeing metrics of our turnaround time on filings, all the Prop 103 filings as they go through. And that's something that's very important to me. And it's something that staff understand as well as part of the SIS. So stay tuned for that. And then on the trust, we have heard the trust issue of different names, individuals in the insurance policy in a different trust. We have heard of those issues. Please call our department. Our staff have been informed of this, but it should not be, we should be able to work it out. I have also touched base with the insurance trade associations, and they've been notified and they want to make it right. They're like, let's not quibble at all on this. So if people are getting denied benefits because of that issue, then call our department immediately, flag that. And even like Amy, if you hear, like, flag it with me and we'll run it. We do need just to know, because we've done the blanket. We've
Yeah.
with the trade association said, this should not be an issue. Ensure that no one gets dropped or no one doesn't get their claims or there's a hang-up. And we've heard all back. It's like, yeah, it shouldn't be an issue. It shouldn't be an issue at all. But
Okay.
now we just
Well,
need individual complaints
okay.
to me and to Tony Signorelli.
Right. Gotcha. Yeah. So again, for those of you who are wondering what we're talking about here, there's been an issue where people who've lost their homes in the fires, the policy was written in the name of a trust instead of them, or vice versa. And they're worrying, or the insurer has said we can only issue the payments to the trust, not to you, and there's confusion there. So it sounds like the solution is we're going to work it out with the carriers, and that you can use the department's hotline as an intermediary. You can also check in with us, and we're always happy to be a conduit of information. Michael, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. We know that your team is working overtime, as are we. And if there were a magic wand, the commissioner would have been waving it around for the last 2 years. So we know this is hard work. I was very encouraged to talk with a representative of a point person for insurers here in the state yesterday, to hear that there's no predictions of any insurer not being able to meet their obligations to pay these claims, including the FAIR Plan, and they may have to do an assessment, but that's what we have that formula there for, and that we will just keep moving forward and try to everybody remain calm. So thank you so much for all the hard work you're doing,
Of course.
and thank you to everybody who signed up for today's program. That's a wrap.
Correct. Thank you, everyone.